what is the craziest thing you've ever seen when you popped in on the store?
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to say it. I've seen some fist fights and I've seen alligators in stores. I've seen, I wouldn't even tell you which store had the alligator because, you would know. But yeah, I've seen some wild stuff. I've seen people, I've seen some crazy stuff. I've come up and I went to one of Jamie's stores, a buddy store one time, and we got there early and the truck was parked in the parking lot and the whole top was ripped off, like it'd been peeled off like a thing. And I guess they hit a bridge thing or something. And we text him a picture and he texts us back that truck was new.
Hello and welcome to the RTO Show. I'm your host, Pete Shau, and today I am talking to an amazing guest. But first, let's handle some business. Guys, I want you to know, after doing some research, guys, I'm telling you right now, half of you that are listening have not subscribed to the RTO Show. You need to go on, you need to subscribe, hit that little bell, and make sure that you're being told, hey, we're on, we're live, and we have a new episode. You can do it on YouTube, and you can go on to anywhere where you listen. I know that my guest here lives on Apple Podcasts. You can do it on Spotify or any place else, iHeart. Do that so that I know, hey, you're listening. Not only that, if you want to go onto the podcast, www.thertoshowpodcast.com, buy some swag. Let me know that you're out there and support the show. My guest today, Mr. Kevin Silvers, with the history lineup. Truthfully, a history lineup that I didn't even know, because as I've gone through the history, as I've gone through, done some homework of my own, and then you helped me out there. Kevin, you've done quite a bit. And I mean, we're talking about from, let's start in the 90s all the way till now, before you got your break into rent to own, as you got your break into rent to own, and then where you are now. You have done some amazing things, sir. First off, tell me.
I've done a few.
How did you mess up on David Duvall? How did you mess up on that?
That was a brain fart there. Yeah. I saw him hit a couple of balls and I thought, this guy will never make it. He looked terrible. And I think at the time I picked Lynn Matisse, which had a great short game out of Florida. And I thought, man, I'll ride this guy to the Masters. And then God, he fell apart. And my buddy was on his bag when he won the British. Yeah, same guy that took the bag was with him at the British. Yeah.
Right. Well, if you guys don't know, and what we're talking about is he was a caddy during the golf scene, and David Duvall ended up winning 13 PGA tours, including the 2001 Open Championship. And, Kevin was just like, this ain't my guy. I don't see this guy happening.
But, hey, I did get this, I got to caddy for a lot of great people. I was a good player back then, but I had a few injuries, so now I'm not that good a player. I'm actually getting old.
Well, see, now I know why every time that they have those golf opens, every time that we have one of the things where they golf ahead of time, that's where Kevin's at. Because
I'm always working. Don't ever let that fool you. I mean, people think I'm done. I think you can have fun and work too. I think there's a balance. If it's not fun, it should always be fun, actually.
If there's anything that Anthony can tell you, we're always working. We might have fun doing it.
Right. Those are just for everybody else to see their pictures. I'm just doing it,
Well, listen, not only that, also for Palmer and Michael Jordan.
Back in the day. Yeah, Michael Jordan had the biggest hands I've ever seen in my life. His grips were huge.
So you know what? That is an actual thing that people have said, that Michael Jordan he actually has some of the biggest hands out there. He was able to palm a ball with the craziest ability.
Smooth as glass. If I had to... I would take him to, if I had to make a shot, I would, not maybe a putt, but to shoot a basketball, I would definitely take him. He was cool as a cucumber.
I'd play softball with him. I don't know if I'd play basketball with him. I don't want to be embarrassed that much.
And Arnold Palmer, Pro Group, was based out of Ooltewah, Tennessee. So Mr. Tucker was, ran Pro Group, and Arnold Palmer would come in and we'd all get to caddy for him or whatever. He was had the strongest forearms I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he was strong even in his 70s or whatever, I mean, he was older when I caddied for him. He was already on, I think,
he played to almost
senior tour.
Yeah, I mean, last game he played was in 2016.
It could have been,
Now, mind you, when we're talking about the Arnold Palmer with 62 PGA Tour wins and 7 major championships, shaking and rubbing elbows with Mr. Kevin Silvers over here before he decides to get into the business.
Most gracious person I've ever met in my life. But actually, the guy that owned the course Mr. Lupton that was really how I got there. And I didn't realize it at the time that he owned like the largest Coca-Cola bottling company in the world. Sold it for like 1.4 billion. Actually, I was his caddy for a year. But we used to just rifle through his desk. We didn't know he had any money. So we used to make long distance phone calls in his office,
But Kevin, like this, talking about all that kind of leads me to the source. How did that affect you in those years to be the person that you are today, right? Because you are probably one of the most outgoing, most upbeat people I've ever met in the rent-to-own scene. Everybody kind of knows where you are, and when you're coming. And how did the interactions with because I can tell you right now, in the mid-90s, and I was a little bit younger then, but in the mid-90s, I was like just focused on work. I didn't really have I just wasn't who I am now. I didn't have that ability. But meeting a few people did change that along the way. Did meeting Jordan and Palmer and Duval and a lot of these guys, being on that course, talking to people who have sold, plants for over $1 billion, how did that change you to get on the course that you're on now?
I think you never really, once you get to that point and you meet those people, nothing, who else could you really meet that would make you nervous or, you couldn't talk to, or if you embarrassed yourself in front of them, really, is there anybody left? So I think in it, and you listen to him talk and, he learned so many things, Little Debbie's based out of here and Shau Industries, Bob Shau, you had Berkshire Hathaway. I remember going to like Circuit City with him to get a television for his house. Had a big Lincoln Continental that he was trying to shove it in the trunk back when they were big, So, I mean, you literally, those people, they, once you meet them, you kind of, everybody else is, they're awesome. You just got to get to know them to understand how they're awesome.
Well, sometimes when you meet those people, right, you have this air, this idea that you built them up a certain way, right? And then you shake their hand and you do something with them and you find out they're just normal human beings that do extraordinary things, right? They get up, they eat breakfast, they have the same problems as we do, the same health issues that we do. They eat breakfast and put on their pants the same way we do. The only thing is that makes them extraordinary is what they do with their time. And so as they move on, so did you. And then you decided that you're going to, you're not going to stay in the caddy scene.
You got to have a little luck, the shot goes in, but, it may not, a little bit of luck. It caught a little rim or you made a decision that kind of worked out or, that's another thing too. You got to have a little bit of luck in life.
So after the scene, chance for favors to prepare, right? So as you get through that, you entered the jewelry industry with Jerry Bogo.
So I think, at the time I wanted to go work on Wall Street. You'd seen, the movie Wall Street, and I thought, man, that'd be awesome. But I didn't have his hair. So I thought, I wouldn't be able to do that in the locker room. So I was like, I better find something to do. And Jerry Bogo was just he was a fascinating guy, extremely smart. In the summer he would get darker. He was just smooth as glass. And so eventually he said, well, hey, come to work for me. And I came in, I learned about the jewelry industry. And we actually had 3 jewelry manufacturers based in Chattanooga. Jerry Bogo Company, Olenberg Corporation, which was had a huge facility downtown, and then E.B. Harvey, which was based out on Bonnie Oaks. And if you had a wedding band in the late 80s, mid 90s, it probably came from E.B. Harvey that was based here. He had taken the machinery, put it in, moved it from like Germany to here. And he basically had to take the building apart to get it in. And so I went to work for Jerry Bogo Company and, learned manufacturing. And, back then it was all paper and fax. And, you got AAA would fax you over your directions. And I really didn't think sales would be my calling. But everybody else said, hey, you should be a salesman, sell something. And I thought, well, jewelry will work. I'll do that. So we had a lot of mom and pop jewelers and, and back then in the jewelry business, if you were a pretty good sized jewelry manufacturer, you wouldn't go to somebody that was in, 50 miles off the beaten path. You might send them a flyer, but you wouldn't go see them. And Jerry Bogo said, well, what if we went and saw him? And he built a huge company And then I would call them, you'd sell them flyer programs. They'd buy X amount to support whatever flyer, and they get so many free flyers. And, and it wasn't anything. We sold Spencer gifts and you remember Service Merchandise, right?
Yes.
Where they pulled
absolutely.
the ticket. Can you imagine pulling a ticket and waiting in line to buy something? Paul Schultz catalog. I mean, we did a lot of that. And the jewelry business was really interesting. I mean, you met a lot of people and a lot of different, you go to the Diamond District in New York, and our buyers were from India. And, I learned how to grade diamonds, kind of sorting rice, and then learning how to pick up the stones. And, it was really clean. You got to wear a bow tie and a coat. And I thought, you know what, I could make a living doing this. It'd be all right. And then, so that's kind of how I got into the jewelry business. So that's how it started. Actually, I thought Jerry would probably fire me after, week 2, but he kept me around for a while.
Well, two things right now. Kevin Silvers is part of King of Promotions, and I'm looking at 2 jewelry pieces you have over your left shoulder. Under the trip sign, he's got 2 necklaces over there. If you guys have any questions, please reach out to Kevin. But I'm going to talk to you about those a little bit later. But then as you move through that, right, there was something in here that I saw that really kind of stuck out to me, and we'll probably jump around a little bit. Tupelo, Mississippi.
Yes.
That place it comes up quite a bit, especially in the Legend series that I've done. Tupelo, Mississippi was a lot larger at one point than it is now, but it was the place to go. And so you had a run in there as well.
Wow. Yeah. So, Robbie Tyson, me and Robbie have worked together for 30 years. I mean, and I actually had, I always worry about doing these and not, everybody that has helped me. Thank you. I'm just going to say that in advance. So,
in case we forgot you.
Oh my God, I know what.
Anthony, thank you too. Anthony,
I've listed all the people you wouldn't believe. Yeah, I was, I'm very thankful for my friends. But so Robbie and John Blair, they'd go down there and rent a house. You couldn't get a place to, really stay. It was packed out, and they had the Ashley trucks lined up, and we sold everybody. We'd do the rent-own, we'd finance, credit furniture. I mean, we would do anybody that. Furniture stores started picking up, a lot of their own paper. They keep a percentage instead of financed it through whoever. So we did tons of jewelry through, in Tupelo. I mean, you come in, they buy. Back then it was live, and we supplied the cases, the displays, the training. And I actually was probably more on the training side than sales. I mean, I always think training and sales go hand in hand, but I really focused on the training part. And I was great in the stores with the managers and the people, and I'm always asking questions. So I think people like to tell you what they do, and I know you appreciate it, I guess.
Well, you have a lot more technical background than I thought when I looked at it, because you seem like a natural salesman. When I talk to you, there are certain things about salespeople, and you can tell the contrived ones, the ones that have studied it and done it. And they do it, they give you the paper and say all the right things, and all the catch lines are something that you read in a book somewhere. And then you have the salesperson that, I probably read 3 books in my entire life, but that's not it, because it's about making the relationship, making the connection with that person, and solving their problem. What do I have that's going to solve your problem and give you the best result, the best bang for your buck? Because nobody wants to buy $10 worth of something and then they just do an even exchange. They want to solve a problem. Right. So if I'm thirsty, I'm going to give you this so that I am not thirsty. If I want something to sit on, I'm going to give you this so that I have something to sit on. And it could be good or bad. And really the truth is, everybody's like, well, price and this and that. Yeah, price definitely pays a portion of it. But you have to know the player of the game, and you have to know how to do it the right way. Are you really solving a need? Are you solving a need and a want? Can you do both at the same time? Selling the product, selling yourself. And talk about that. I do have to know. You are the only man in the business with the bow tie.
Well,
What's the
so
deal with
back
the bow tie?
in the Tony Dawson get a kick out of this. So back in the day when I used to, I probably would see stores. My goal was, or used to be, to see stores, well, whoever had our programs, like 4 times a year. Which became very hard because we had a lot of stores. I mean, because we had picked up a Rent-A-Center and Aaron's and Buddies, and, we had Rentway. And so it was very hard to do. But I've spent a lot of training meetings just teaching like 10 guys how to tie a bow tie, which was it's very fun to watch guys that back then some of them wore ties, but but a lot of them were really they were still clipping them on, a lot of them. But so, I used to say, but people love the bow tie. I'm not even sure I can tie the other one, but the bow ties I can tie. It kind of stresses people out when you come in because they either think you're buying the store, buying the company, or you're a lawyer. They can't decide which one to, which one. They start to worry a little bit.
That's the secret sauce, Anthony. You don't know who I am. Hi, I'm Pete Shau. You may know me from the RTO Show podcast, but today I'm doing something a little bit different. Apro and Wow Brands have launched a special project to bring the story of our industry to life like never before. They've asked me to sit down with some of the true legends of rent-to-own, capturing their stories, their impact, and their vision for the future. And now I get to share those conversations with you straight from the legends themselves. All of this leads to something groundbreaking, though. A new book, The Rent-to-Own Revolution, A Definitive History of Advocacy and Consumer Access, written by Apro CEO Charles Smitherman and Wow Brands CEO Brian Krast. The book explores the grassroots of RTO, the advocacy that has defined it, and the future that we're building together. Here's where you come in. We're giving away free copies once the book is released. Just head over to the RTORevolution.com and sign up for a chance to receive a copy in early 2026. Don't miss the chance to be among the first to hold this piece of RTO history. That's RTORevolution.com. Check it out and become a part of RTO history. So let's move on a little bit. Late 90s, your introduction to rent-to-own came via Richard Grossman.
Yeah, we did. We had an incredible salesman back in the day. You got to remember, jewelry, now the price of gold and product has gone up, but probably the average cost of a piece of jewelry might have been less than $300. So, and this was a salesman that literally probably sold $3 million a year. I mean, he was incredible. I mean, wow. He was the most, you're talking about a natural salesman. And see, I didn't drink. So if you're not out drinking with him and whatever, I think I really struggled on that. Because, I mean, they'll tell you, I'll say I'm going to the bathroom and I'll just leave. Because, I mean, when it becomes about 11 o'clock, I want to go to bed, and they'll usually make a joke about that. But anyway, so he was going through and he came across a store in, I think it was Birmingham, and it had rent-to-own on it. And he goes in, and I guess the guy gives him the spiel, and I think he sold him some. And then he calls me and Robbie and everybody to talk about it. And we're like, we've never heard of it. But it wasn't as far-fetched for us, because in the jewelry business, in the mom and pops always carried their own paper. You got the piece and you'd bring X amount in weekly or monthly based on whatever you did. If you were, grew something or fixed something or whatever. So that really didn't, and jewelry back then, you probably did get 4 turns. So it wasn't that big of a thing. So when he told us about it, but about that same time, we had got a message, or somebody had left a message for Jerry, and it was Bob Marshall with Rent-A-Center. So we didn't know who that was. So we had to look them up like in Dun & Bradstreet. And we saw, well, their credit was good. Wow. And, they seemed okay.
Yeah.
So, and by then, I think not long after that, we sold about all the Rent-A-Center stores. I mean, I remember but the orders came by. That was Thorn, though, I believe. That was before, they were acquired by Renter's Choice or whatever. So that was before then. But you literally couldn't keep paper in the fax machine. I mean, the orders were massive. I mean, they would come across. But rent-to-own, the foot traffic in rent-to-own back then was, I mean, you'd open up a store and you'd have to just about taser them to keep them out. I mean, I heard you mention, getting your return on your investment, as far as the quickness of it. I mein, back then, product turned fast. You could rent yourself poor. I mean, if you weren't careful, you had to be there. Always tell people there's a way to rent, and there's a way to rent profitably. And that's probably you can get go one way or the other, I mean.
Well, and I think that's what's so beneficial to some of the things that we have as far as the people that are in groups, right? So if you're in the Trib group and a meeting of the minds, or you go to the RTO worlds, or you go to some of the RDAs and say, okay, guys, I've never done this before. I have a little bit in my pocket. I want to open this business, but how do I open it smart? How do I make the right decisions? And, you have the Windsors and you have the Tissot's and you have, the Ferrymans to say, slow down a little bit. We had Ernie
Right.
at one time, to say, Lou Ellen, to say, hey, this is what you probably want to look at. This is probably what you want to do. Don't get too excited. You want to always be excited. You always want to be hungry, but don't make these mistakes because it can come back to get you.
There's a way to rent. I always tell people, I said to grow, same store revenues, to keep increasing, doing better, you got to really work on the edges. You got your core products like your furniture that are, profitable, appliances, electronics, but you better have, your club programs, jewelry, cell phones, all the speakers. I mean, there's a lot of things that make up that pie, from year to year. If you want to do better, I mean, it's really hard. I mean, and cost of product has changed so much. I mean, we've been lucky. Me and Robbie are pretty good at moving things and creating and whatever. And we haven't been as affected as much as everybody else, probably by the tariffs and whatever. And we do a lot of manufacturing here. So, but it's hard. I mean, rent to own is a business, the franchise sometimes throws me a little bit because if you're going to buy the franchise, if you're going to do it every day, I think it's the best thing in the world. But rent to own's never going to run itself. It's a day in, day out type of business. I mean, I think that's why I like it because I think I'm a little bit of a workaholic. So it's fun to, and I'm a talker. So, a little Kathy chatterbox, but I like to talk. I mean, you like to see people and I love to learn, me and Tissa have become one of the best friends I've ever had, but he literally has taught me. And I talk to him, probably not every day, but every other day. And he literally teaches me something every day. I mean, which is, everybody asks me what his quality or what he re-energizes you every day. I can be having the worst day in the world. Talk to him. I feel like I've just climbed Everest. And the building could be falling apart. So I think it's just, that's the key, I think, to being successful in our industry. You've got to re-energize your people and yourself every day.
When you say re-energize, does that include reinvent?
Well, yeah, I think you always reinvent yourself. Every morning you wake up, you're a little different. I mean, I'm different than I was yesterday. Hopefully I'm a little smarter. I'm definitely a little more bald and a little heavier. But yeah, I hope you reinvent yourself every day. Mistakes are a good thing.
One of our legends said he reinvented himself every 5 years to make sure that he wasn't staying behind the times and that he really was able to kind of see what was coming, change with it, and find the progressive way to be like, okay, how do I make this work for me? It was every 5 years. So I love seeing that. So I see in the late 90s, and you mentioned this, right? There was Rack. You had built relationships with Buddies, Best Way, Countryside, Showplace. First off, this was Rack Thorn, right? When you talk about Rack, this was before the changeover.
When they were British, whatever it was. I mean, yeah. That was back then. Yeah. And then I think Tally, Renter Stores came in and bought them. And, Tally was not a jewelry guy. So, but didn't mean we didn't pitch him, but I mean, he definitely had different philosophies about rent to own and did, opened a lot of stores and, it's weird. I always tell people, I said, you look at jewelry and people always think this, that, or the other. But, I think it's just, you have to just keep evolving. And I think he kind of went a little backwards to go forwards. And, so we did do Thorn and then we didn't do Renter's Choice. Yeah. So that was it. Yeah.
I was a Renter's Choice guy. I actually started Renter's Choice and yeah, I did. And then when there was the acquisition with Thorn and we became Rent-A-Center, there was a lot of talk like, why are we becoming Rent-A-Center? And I was like, well, they got more stores. They got more, market share. They actually have the name. I mean, come on. It was Rent-A-Center.
Rent-A-Center's a good thing. They mentioned it in Good Will Hunting, I mean.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing.
We made it to the big time.
That's right.
So for sure. Now, when you say Countryside, how many stores did they have then? Was it 1920?
Back then, that was probably when Mr. Tissot was, they probably didn't have that many. I mean, it was probably smaller than that. I mean, so they were, I think they opened up, in 85? So, when we started working in them, they might have had, half, maybe 16, something like that. Maybe not, probably not even that many. Because, that, I got flyers, I think, where I had sent you or, where they had 18. And so that we'd already been doing business with them for quite a while, before that catalog. So yeah. I would say they probably didn't.
Well, I'm going to send Anthony the pictures that you sent me. We're going to post that up on the flyer so that, they can see exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah. I used to collect everything. So I've got flyers from the early 90s. You can tell they're just.
If you want the RTO museum, we need to see Kevin
one
Silver's
of everything.
They can
I've got like
museum.
22 tubs of stuff.
So as you go on, we add on Rentway, Action, Home Choice. I mean, you're doing payday loan stores, like
finance. Yeah.
Talk to me about this. Yeah. Talk to me about that, because as you're moving on, I mean, you just have a wave of different things that you're kind of getting into, and you're talking to so many companies. Where did that part of your past come in, and how did it play into what you're doing now?
Whenever you think you do one, you always can do something else. And what's weird is I always say Check Into Cash, Mariner Finance, they were all based out of Cleveland, Tennessee. Johnny Holden sold to Mariner Finance, and then so they were there. And I thought, well, if you could do one, and the laws changed. Some states couldn't do check cashing, some you had to have a firewall and whatever. But the ones that you didn't, I mean, we'd put up a jewelry display. They'd have miscellaneous washers and dryers, and so they'd loan you the money to buy whatever. So we put jewelry cases in there, and we went to every finance show in the world. I mean, anywhere we could go, we would go, and it was amazing. I guess we were halfway decent salesmen, because we would tend to sell them something, I mean, but you had to sell them the complete turnkey package. You couldn't just sell them a product. You had to sell them the display, the product, the training, the way to handle the product. So there was a lot of things that went in there. It's very labor intensive what we do. I mean, people don't realize it. We're everywhere because you really have to participate a lot.
Yeah. Well, that is one thing that you're good at, Kevin. I think I see
Don't
you
ever give me your home address, because I will show up.
As long as you make dinner, we're good.
That's right.
But looking at that, is it because I see a lot of similarities, right? A lot of people who say the payday loans, they are involved in two things. It's either rent to own, or they have some type of business where they're, and I don't want to say they're brokers or stuff like that, but what is it when you have something and you go to sell it?
Yeah,
the pawn shops. You know what I mean?
We used to work with the pawn industry a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, is it because they were all tight knit that you kind of kept going with it?
I mean, I guess in some people's, I would say that rent to own and the payday loans, I've never seen a lot of people do both well. And now the Strongs, they do both well. Michelangelo, Mr. Strong, they do it both good. The times we've seen it together, they did okay, but you tend to loan people that owe you money and then they don't pay you one or the other. So you got to there's a fine line on that, I guess. But
there's not too many people doing it.
No, I think that's the reason. I think it's hard to do both well. I think, you can always grow. You can do your rent-own business better. You really have to have, a great skill set to do both. Yeah, in the same environment. I think it.
Well, I know there's Castle Rent to Own and Ben McCauley. I'm sorry if I always say them wrong. It's either Castle Rent to Own or Castle Rents or whatever the case is. But they actually do pawn and RTO out there in Arkansas, which is really cool because, again, the things that you don't see together very often, and somebody might find a way to really make it stick. Hey, but they are one of the few.
And pawn is as long as always tell people we work with pawn shops, quite a bit, but you always have to have an outlet for whatever you buy. You can buy great stuff. I can own a ton of real estate, but I got to have somebody wanting to buy it on the other side. You got to have a funnel. It's got to keep moving. You buy product to sell it, to buy more product. I mean, I think that was in a book somewhere, but yeah, I think the Dollar General guys or something, maybe,
So, one of the things that you said is that managers taught you more than you ever taught them. You said you did a lot of training, you went around, you did a lot of things, but there was a comment that you made about managers taught you more than you ever taught them. What did some of the GMs or management or RMs or owners, what did they teach you that you've taken along with you through the years to be where you are today?
It's amazing. I always tell people rent to own, being a regional is I could be a divisional or a manager. But if I was a regional, I mean, because you're part, psychologist and, friend and helper and teacher. I mean,
Yes.
God, if anybody ever writes a book that has, some kind of balance in it, you could sell 1 million copies of that. But they taught me how to interact with people, and a lot of the people a lot of our customers have had hard lives. I mean, it's not that they just need an environment to get great stuff, which we created for them. And the managers, I mean, the way they work with them, and they did marketing and service, sales, they manage people. I mean, they fixed trucks. I mean, it was amazing all they did, and just watching them. Whenever I get frustrated and I think my day is full, I just go back and talk to a guy managing $1 million store. That guy's day is full. Probably 1.5 million now.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, that day is
right. It
that
is.
day is full.
Yeah. I remember, it's funny you say that, because I forgot who I was talking to, and we like the day of the $1 million store, which used to be like that was a showcase store. Okay, if you had $1 million, now it's like, well, no, now it's like $1.5 million for like $2 million store. Oh, it's knocking on $2 million nowadays.
That I learned a lot from, because back in the day you'd have, and I'm lucky enough to know people I've seen people that they weren't even $1 million store, and they went to $1 million, $1.5 million, too, and they've progressed. Which that in and of itself, to manage, most people will get to it. Back in the day, would get to $1 million, and they would it would just blow up, and they'd go back down, or they'd keep going, or they'd promote them to a regional, and then they'd have to let them go in a month because they, that was what I learned the most is sometimes, there are people they want to be a delivery driver, and to have great delivery drivers. Oh my God. If I was a manager, I'd hire my delivery drivers first. That's the people that
there's that point too, because there's that point of, when do I stop becoming an employee and I become a leader? Right. You can say a manager, but really a manager is just someone who tells other people they manage the day to day. That's not really a leader. A manager needs to be a leader, and getting somebody from the hourly position to, and I'm just saying that you could be, salary, whatever, but when you get an hourly position to a leadership position, they are not the same. You're not built the same. And that you've been into hundreds of different stores, which again, I always see you on the circuit as in, Meeting of the Minds, RTO World, the RDAs I see in the big events. I never really knew that you spent so much time in individual locations. If you had to guess, if you had to put a finger on it, how many stores would you say you've actually been in?
Oh, probably Tony Dawson could tell you about, but thousands. I mean, I've been in, I used to go see probably 100 stores, 4 times a year. That was, real way. And then we saw Buddies, and then we saw, I probably was in Showplace or Countryside, and there were so many that were, everywhere. I mean, there was a time where Action, Home Choice, they all kind of started, acquiring. You got to make sure your receivables were in line, because you never really knew where to collect your money. It changed departments, and then, thousands. I mean, I've been in, and in some stores I've been in multiple times, but and managers, man, I'm telling you, that was a great, Mark Ray used to, with Leopard. He was a manager regional. Greg Skinner was an incredible regional. Ron Taylor.
I didn't know he was an operator till one day we sat down and had a conversation, and I did not know that. It was amazing. It's amazing what you find out when you talk to some of these people.
All these people, you did Showplace. Joe Adams, I've known him for 30 years. He was a great regional. Hamburger was an anomaly. He's another great. He's like Tissot and Gary and all that. And they're just, I mean, Todd was always. God, I've known him forever. We used to go on a ski trip with all of his Chris Caprio, Schuler with Premier. I mean, there are so many good people in our, great managers. And now you see that we're their owners, or they were regionals and now they're owners.
Yeah,
and it's tough to go from that.
Anthony, he's pulling all these names out. No, Anthony's like, I have no idea. These are legendary names in rent-to-own that he's talking about, that we go back years and years and years. And Hamburger actually had to, actually connected with him on social media not that long ago. And it's just nice to see him again after all, after everything. I didn't really get to know him. I knew him in passing, but it's, when you mention these names,
he's a good one. Jamie Sladden, he taught me a lot about product back in the day. I mean, golly, he was one of the guys when I was young. I used to be I mean, I was not as outgoing as I was now. And I remember, there were some big personalities in the rent-own industry. And I remember I always wanted to hang around Jamie because he would tell you anything. He was
Yeah.
funny, and him and Robbie were so close, and Slats back in the day, which I didn't really get to work with him, but I mean, I could hear him yelling at Jamie, but I could, you just didn't want to get caught in that wave of whatever. But
Right.
Jamie would teach you so much about product and people. I mean, how to deal with, and just seeing them interact with other reps. I always tell people, never judge a vendor. If things are going well, a girl that was, a sophomore in high school could do it. But judge them by when things are going bad, because eventually things are going to go wrong. And when you call them and how they handle it, you'll never not find me. The buck stops with me. I mean, I'm never going to spend your money I'm going to spend it like it's mine. And I am tight. I'm sure and I'm never going to sell you all the time. I mean, if you find somebody that ever says, Kevin, who's selling me on the golf course or whatever, sometimes I'll forget to sell you. I mean, it's not, and but they'll buy from me eventually. I think I knew Chisholm for a long time before I ever sold him anything. I thought I didn't want to mess up the friendship. It was going so well. Didn't want to jack anything up. So, and that's most Aaron. It's definitely not about making a dollar. Now, you got to make a dollar, but it's definitely not the end all be all.
You're gonna have to mark this. Anthony, this is one of those rare times where somebody's gonna say, "I am a vendor. I sell to the dealers," and it's not about selling.
It's definitely. They'll tell you it's not about selling for me. I'm not really. Yeah.
You're figuring that part out, like you got it all down to a science.
No, never a science. But I mean, it's it's weird. I think the more I understand our business has gotten so much better about how they make money. You understand it so much.
Well, we had to be more efficient. We've had to be more efficient, especially coming out of the era. I'm not even going to call the C era anymore, but we've gotten through it. We made it out alive, and we're still, I think we're still trying to figure it all out because everything went digital, and a lot of people stayed indoors.
Yeah, everybody loves change up to about 2 weeks. And then, you go back to the other way. We all love change. It all sounds good when we leave those training meetings and, think, oh, I'm going to go back. And then 2 weeks into it, you're like, that's really kind of hard. I'm going to go the other way again. Do it. And then you go back to another one. But we've done well. I mean, I think rent-own will always be a people 70% of our new customers or whatever come from our existing customer base. So I think or I would say they do. I mean, I'm not saying that's the number, but if I had to guess, I would say that's the number. And somebody may have told me that, but you got to still be the AI and all that and how you email and text, it's a little overwhelming to our customers sometimes. I think you still have to be that guy that participates and then, goes to the events in your area and goes out and knocks on a few doors, does some in-home visits to their top 10%, if you're wanting to grow. I mean,
well, I can tell you, what's funny, just recently, Charles Smitherman, the CEO of April, he does this webinar thing. April does a webinar, and he had one very recently about AI and the information on that. And it was just absolutely mind blowing, some of the information and some of the facts that he was putting out there. And I got to say, April, great job on doing that. But wow, there was just some information on there about the differences between how things are going and where they're going, and the amount of generations that we have now, right? And the difference between the eldest generation and Gen Z right now. It's completely, or I should say almost Gen Alpha right now. It's just getting to the point where it's like, it's night and day. They handle things, they look at things, and they do things not, different. Going back to 2005, talking about new things, you brought up some stuff. You brought up mowers. I forgot all about mowers and when they first came out. You were talking about that and how that came out. How did that impact you you brought it up. Gary and Tissot was doing that, and you kind of made that connection in certain ways.
And I actually found because I was like, it was amazing. You see these things, you just take it for granted everybody's doing them. And I'm not even sure the brand didn't even, it wasn't like, whatever. It was like a brand I'd never heard of. And so I went back and pulled flyers from different area. And he's right. Actually the Ohio area, it seemed like they were, the front page of that was jewelry and mowers. So they were so far ahead of the other groups. And Yeah, I mean, they were, but Gary's super smart. I know Mr. Tissot was like I always called him Mr. Tissot, but like Mr. Carrico, I always call him Mr. You just feel, I mean, they deserve it, so that's another one that kind of, I learned a lot from the show, but, they were so far ahead. It's really, they were willing to take the chance, I mean, our customers, customers want to pay. I mean, we couldn't stay in business if they didn't. I mean, now there might be some that gets. I always tell people if you've got a credit problem in the store, it already was there. It's not because somebody quit paying or whatever. They didn't collect their five and do their calls and verify the address. If you do all that stuff, I mean, I could probably collect on them. I mean, usually we cause the credit issues. We make a good customer bad, and they were willing to take a chance and do some stuff. I think there's still an outer. A lot more you could do in our industry. I mean, if I can see it, I know there is. I mean, I'm not that big.
Well, I think about it all the time. Yeah, we talk about it all the time. Especially when we're doing the green room and some stuff, and sometimes we're, in meetings and we come up with these ideas. Like, there's a lot out there, and there's some needs in the RTO industry. There's no doubt about that. We got to catch up on certain things. But Kevin, you always seem like somebody who's looking out for the new, right? You started in one place, you were able to see trends, you've gone out, you've done training, you've done loans, you've gotten you're doing comparisons, you're meeting a ton of people, which you have that kind of personality about you that you're like, hey, I'm going to meet some, just so you know, Anthony, I actually met Kevin at RTO World in Tampa. Didn't know Kevin from anything, but he heard about the show and he pulled me over and he's like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to some people. And goodness gracious, if it didn't make a difference, I've always appreciated that. I don't know if I've ever told you that, but I've always appreciated that because I really didn't know a lot of people in the room at that particular point in time. I was basically like a Florida native at that time. I knew everybody in Florida, and that was it. And this introduced me to a whole different world of a whole different gamut of people that they weren't going to the RDA, right? Florida Rental Dealer Association to me was like, that was it. And so getting to see all these people and you helped me out. And I met a few people then that I actually still talk to this day. So I do appreciate that. But one of the first listeners, one of the avid listeners of the RTO show was right here. So I appreciate that.
I love the show.
Seeing the new trends. Great. That's what I'm talking about. Like, he sees those trends. You've always kind of been on the edge of that to see something new coming. So how did you get into, right now we're like 2010 something, and then, how do you get into the King of Promotions? Where did that come from your background? Because you're meeting the big guys, you're on the field, let me rephrase that. You're on the golf course, you're meeting all these wonderful people. You change over to do something else. Then now you're going into stores, you're doing payday loans, you're doing all this kind of stuff. You get involved in the RTO stores. And then out of that, the King of Promotions starts up, and you and Robbie now are starting to do
well, we
things.
were always,
really
we did jewelry and that, but so it was funny. So John Blair, he was, John Blair's a great guy. I'll never be able to pay.
I love John Blair. John, I love you.
I used to hang out with him all the time. He literally, him and Robbie, I mean, we were, I'm surprised we didn't get him fired. I always tell Charles the same way, Smitherman, he needs to cut us loose. We'll end up getting him canned. But he, but we love Charles. With Dennis, I said, we couldn't be luckier. It's come work with me in the jewelry side for a while, you will so appreciate our industry. I mean, the jewelry side is so different than, it's a bunch of butts. I mean, it's a very tough thing. But so anyway, so John and Robbie were at Western Finance, and they went to this, they were having a meeting doing the jewelry thing, and I believe it was Western, and then they went there and they were sorting out all this swag, hats, whatever. And John said, what are you doing this for? And they said, well, it's our customer appreciation event. And I think he said, oh, yeah. He goes, well, if we could sell those $1 cheaper, would you buy them from us? And needless to say, he called back, and, we went to work, and we definitely can make them $1 cheaper. And then I actually had a pretty good talent for the promotional stuff. I had a pretty creative mind. You literally, if you called me tomorrow and said, hey, I need to make a car for, $17,000 or whatever, I can make it for you. I mean, I literally think I can make anything. I've made everything once, and I mean,
Anthony, we're going to get a bunch of calls for people. I want
oh,
a car.
I could figure it out. I
You
told
get
somebody,
with
I
a car.
said, I understand why everybody went into betting, because literally I can make, if you give me the specs, I can make it cheaper than everybody else. I mean, it's just one of those things, you get good at making and creating. With the promotional stuff, I think the one thing that I saw was that people bought a lot of stuff, but sometimes maybe it didn't have an exact purpose. It came in and maybe it said, or you just gave it out and whatever. So I created a lot of organization type to it. We developed websites where you could, you allocated the expense and you knew what it was coming for, and it came with packing sheets, and you knew what event, and cost was a little out of whack in our group. I mean, the people that, I mean, not to say that, I've heard the guy that we compete against on here, and they're super sharp, make great stuff. I mean, but I just thought, well, we could do it all a little better. And we worked hard at it, we have got 2 facilities we work with here, and we literally can make anything. I think today I just I posted a challenge key, not a coin, an actual key that was logoed, and I mean, but it would fit in your pocket. So, somebody said, can you do a key? And I was like, oh yeah, no problem. I can do a key. I've never done a key before. And like the sound boost that you put the speakers in, that, they wanted a booth to display their speakers. And I said, it'd be better if it had lights and it kind of coordinated with the music. And I'd never made those. I mean, literally I had to get them to put them together instead of paper instructions. So, and these jewelry cases, I was like, oh yeah, I can make displays, no problem. I can bring that, and all this, lifestyle stuff. I said, I can do all that, no worries. And we happen to be really good at it. Me and Robbie, we team good together on that. We try to make it right. And we try to make it, the thing about promotions and all that is you want to do them, get them in place, and then you shouldn't have to worry about them. It should just happen. If you place an order for apparel, it should just come, and you should get to wear it on day whatever. You shouldn't have to call 4 times. I mean, and I think most people subbed a lot of it out, so that made it, and so we eliminated that and just really focused on, and make it, and you don't want it to be, you want people to put more in it because we need our industry to do better. That's one of the other things I learned too, is we all need to do well. We're still a really small sector. We all have to do great. Now, you may want to do a little better, but we all need to do well. And I'm not good at keeping a secret. So if you ever tell me a secret on something good that you do, I'm sharing it with everybody.
Well, we know ahead of time.
I'm giving you the heads up on
secret
that one.
sauce
Yeah,
here.
I suck at the secret thing because, I mean, if it's exciting and new, you really, and I think Mike taught me that. I mean, he shares everything, and I've never seen that before. And Gary and Keith and Aaron, they share everything. You share everything. This show is an anomaly in my mindset.
Well, we're trying to do that. Hey everyone, it's Pete Shau here from the RTO Show podcast, and I want to tell you about a company that's making a real difference in the rent-to-own space. Wow Brands. I've seen firsthand how they approach marketing. And let me tell you, it's not just about ads. Wow Brands builds complete digital ecosystems designed specifically for the rent-to-own industry. Their e-commerce and lead generation strategies are built to bring in qualified leads. And did I mention that they are actively working with the rent-to-own industry while also being members of APRO and TRIB? Listen, these folks are passionate problem solvers. They don't just slap something together. They design, build, and scale the kind of digital retail tools your business needs and your customers actually want. So if you're serious about growing, reach out to Wow Brands at wowbrands.com. I trust them, and I think you will too. Talking about that, because I'm glad you're saying that. I'm glad you're talking about sharing, because you have apparently a lot more than I knew. You have a lot of experience from a lot of different areas. Going into being king of promotions and really having to, amass. I know that I said this, when you're talking about somebody who has to do a lot, right? So I've done quite a bit, and I don't think I've mastered anything, right? So they say that, as you go along,
You've mastered a lot more than you
You
think.
learn a lot.
You've done. You've done
Well,
really
I've
well.
tried. I had to bring guys in so that I could do it right. But like as you move on, you get to do a lot of things very well, but you don't master them because you just have to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. And so it sounds like you've really put your finger on that heartbeat and really have been able to ride that for years now. I mean, we're talking about years. What if you're talking to somebody right now? They're coming into the rent-own industry. Now you're doing it from a vendor side and they're saying, "Hey, like I'm a new vendor." Because I've seen people come to some of our shows and they don't last a year or two for whatever reason. What is some advice, some secret sauce from Kevin Silvers, who's been doing this for years and every name in the business, you've seen them all. What is some advice that you would give to say you want some longevity? You need to do this.
Yeah, I think to do well in our industry, you can't take if somebody tells you no, take it very gracious. I mean, God, everybody's told me no in our industry at one time or another, because I mean that's just the way it is. And I think if you stick and you're genuine and you care and and you're selling something of value, I mean, and you show them how it makes a little money, you're going to eventually be successful. And get to know them. I mean, I could probably tell you something about everybody in our industry, whether it's Lynn Lynch and his dog, or Gary, and he married the greatest lady in the world, and Chisset and his dad and his mom. Don't let Mike tell you his business mind is like his mother's, and his dad, he's got his dad's heart. So that it's reverse. He always says that, but his dad was sharp too. But I think you have to learn a little bit of something about everybody before you should never sell anybody before you know them. I mean, that's really, unless you just have some tires. I mean, if I had tires, I mean, it's got I know nothing about automotives, but if it's got like a 50,000 mile thing or whatever, you probably can put them up there and, Jonathan Rowe's probably going to buy them. And, I mean, but unless most of the things we do, our product's a little, it comes from distributors a lot of times. Sometimes it's straight from the manufacturer. I think it's, you just got to learn a little bit before you start selling. Everybody thinks their product's the greatest, but, it's probably not the greatest. I mean, it's good, it's solid and it's got a lot of value, but there's probably like products out there. I mean, that are just as good.
So would you say come and mingle, meet everybody, talk first, get to know them?
You can't get frustrated, I mean, and they ought to, I think I made the suggestion to somebody. I said at these shows, maybe they position a new vendor with an old vendor, I mean, if you can stand the noise, because we're extremely loud, but I mean, if you can, you might put an old with a new and maybe, kind of partner them up a little bit. I think that would probably be good for new members also, kind of partner them up. I mean, y'all do that a lot, help each other out. Vendors were not as friendly as y'all are.
Talking about that, LegCon is coming up now in April, and they actually have the Fellows program to do just that. They stick some of the new guys with some of us who've done it before.
That would be good.
So that we have the ability to kind of take them along with us, which is an amazing ride. And I love that part of it. You said, and you act like it. So I'm gonna say this. You put on here that you never saw it as work, and you've always loved the people. Is that why? Is that why it feels like it's so flowy, because you love what you do?
I think I love the people. I mean, I've been lucky. I mean, I'm a man that would tell you, if I loved you, I love you. I mean, I love you, Pete. I hope you have a great day. I mean, I'm just that way. I mean, and I love them all. I mean, I can't think of anybody I don't like. Somebody told me one time, though, I like everybody, but they could hit me with their car and I'd still probably like them. But I mean, but it's true. I mean, everybody has some great stuff about them. You just got to let them show you a little bit. Everybody has the ability to be, I always tell people the harder in our industry or in life, it's easy to be a great person when everybody's watching. When nobody's watching, people tend to not be as great. But in our industry, when they're not watching, they're awesome. And I mean, if I told you all the great things these people did, first of all, they'd never be my friends again, and they probably never tell me, but they do some incredible stuff. I mean, and help so many people.
Well, you know who's really good at doing things outside and in the community? John Cleek and the Cleeks do an amazing job in their community. And I'm not going to take it away from anybody else. I'm not saying
They're
that
awesome.
nobody else does it, but they are always doing something for their community. They always have an event, and John is never shy of calling people. Hey, you need to support this. Come on down. Come see what we do for our community. Does an amazing job of that. So John Cleek Jr., we do appreciate that. I know that the Cleeks are always doing something about that. Talking about recognition, 2019 Trip Vendor of the Year, 2020 John Blair Hall of Honor, and then the first recipient of the Countryside Vendor of the Year in 2020 for Countryside Rent-Own. Talk to me. You've been doing it for a while, and somebody says, Kevin, you made it. You have arrived. Here you go.
The Countryside thing was, I mean, if they've given it to somebody else, I don't know, but that was pretty cool. Mike's been incredible. I mean, I can't imagine a better friend, but he is. I mean, him and Rob, I mean, he just, and that meant a lot to me, and getting the vendor thing. But I'm not big on awards. In fact, but everybody, I think I enjoy when the people that give them, that is really what you enjoy, not as much the award, because you just look at them and you're like, man, they really appreciate, they care about you. And most people, when they get an award, it's not as much about what they do, it's that the people care about them. And they appreciate it, you know. I mean, because most of those vendors that win, I'm sure in 2019, I jacked up a lot. It was 2020, I did too. So, I mean, but I would say on the whole, sometimes it's more about the effort than it is what you accomplish. I mean, which is...
Well, I think it's definitely a team. I love being involved in a team. I love being involved in people and everybody coming up together. That's always been my thing. I'm the same way. I don't really care about the award. I care about everybody being better. I care about the industry being better. I care about if anybody gets one thing out of any one of these shows that makes them better, I'm happy with that. Talking about some of the Legends series, if Mike Tissett was on the show very recently talking about his father, and there was a couple moments he got a little choked up because he really cares about his father, and there's a lot of love in there, a lot like that. John Cleek Jr. was doing the same thing. We're going to have some more of the Legends come out before it's all over with, before LegCon, and if you guys want something good to listen to, you got to listen to that. But you mentioned Mike a lot. Mike actually did a lot for the show as well. He was one of the people that actually first came on and did one of the first interviews that really went out there and kind of got a lot of people involved, just like yourself coming out and saying, hey, let me introduce you to some people. So I really appreciate that from you and from Mike. Going into the last leg of this, there was a couple of things that I put on here. I'm just telling you now, I'm going to put you in the hot seat and ask you some questions. Are you good?
You can ask me anything.
They're not that crazy.
Yeah.
I want to ask you,
like I said, I don't have the ability to lie anyway, so I'm good.
All right. So most famous golfer that you ever met and liked?
Oh, Jack Nicklaus.
Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah,
really?
I met him at the honors course when Gary Nicklaus was playing, I think, in the Southern Amateur. Jack Nicklaus is the most gracious human being. I mean, Jack Nicklaus was the only athlete to ever dot the I in the Ohio State marching band.
Okay.
When they march out and they dot the I, I think he's the only athlete that's ever done it.
That's awesome. Okay. Question off the same. What is the most famous golfer that you ever met and disliked?
Oh, Charles Howe III. I think it was Charles Howe, the little skinny one. He was not very nice.
I don't know. Now you're going to make me look him up.
Yeah. He's a good player. Still, I think he plays on the senior tour now. But yeah, I think it's Charles Howe III. Yeah, he was not nice. He was not nice. Daly was great, but he was always drinking then.
So you've been to a lot of stores. You've shown up. You've seen things. What is the craziest thing you've ever seen when you popped in on the store?
Oh my God! Yeah, I don't know if I'd want to say it. I've seen some fist fights and. I've seen some wild stuff. Yeah. No, I've seen some crazy stuff. I've seen alligators in stores. I mean, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I've seen, I won't even tell you which store had the alligator because, you would know. But yeah, I've seen some wild stuff. I've seen people. Yeah, I've seen some crazy stuff. I've come up and I went to one of Jamie's stores, a buddy store one time, and we got there early and the truck was parked in the parking lot and the whole top was ripped off, like been peeled off like a thing, and I guess they hit a bridge thing or something, and we text him a picture, and he texts us back that truck was new. So yeah, I've seen some wild stuff, but I mean, I think but that's not a negative. I mean, that happens in every industry. If I told you things that happen in my company, you would be, I mean, holy crap, I've had some weird stuff happen. I like it now though, because they have the camera and they always say, I don't think we can make it. And then they still hit I mean, you think you would stop when they say, I don't think we can make it. And they still hit it and knock the top.
Well, I'm telling you, Rent-own has the highest, rates as far as insurance. Always have.
And I'm a terrible driver. Never ride with me. I'm a terrible driver. No, I'll just throw that out there now. I'm the worst driver in the world. Yeah, I've got a ticket to every. I have about 9 or 10 points every year. I'm lucky I haven't lost my license.
Oh my gosh! Wow, we got to talk about that one day. There's a big history there. Besides the RTO revolution, what is the best book on RTO or business or best book for RTO or business that you've read in the last 12 months?
Oh wow. Well, there's not a lot about the RTO. I mean, specifically, I like to Let Them was a great book. I read that one. I mean, I think in our world, in rent to own, you take a lot home. You can't leave it, and you can teach and do and develop, but eventually you have to put them within the guardrails and let them drive down the highway. And I think a lot of times if they fail, it's like we've personally failed. I mean, you can evaluate how you've taught or how you communicated to them, but in reality, I mean, I can no more, define how you do your show than a man in the moon. I can give you suggestions and I can help you, but if you decide to do it, I got to let you do it. I think that's one of the things. I think that would be a good one. I think, regionals, when they have a blow up in a store, they tend to go to a store and run it. But in reality, that's not how it probably works. Now, I'm not saying I definitely don't know everything about rent to own, but I think you gotta let people succeed and let people fail. So I think that's a good one. But there's a million good books. I just now read Shoe Dog because I am not a sport, that I've been in the Nike complex, and went there, snuck in. Somebody else's badge. So I got a question for you. You would get a kick out of this. So what's the only statue they have inside the complex? And they may have more now, but at Nike. Who do you think it would be? No,
Jordan.
Steve Prefontaine, the great distance runner. It was out of Oregon, I think Coos Bay or something. That's the only statue they had. Until we got kicked out, it was a really cool place. I mean, it was, we've been every Turner Broadcasting. I've been a million different places that we shouldn't have been. We just keep on. If you act like you're supposed to be there, nobody ever asks you if you should be there. Most
people don't mess with you. Last questions I got. Favorite Trib Meeting of the Minds location?
Oh, Meeting of the Minds. Probably Atlanta, because I won Vendor of the Year, I think, that year. And me and Angela Strong, we tore one out, boy. And Mike, I remember I don't even drink. That's the drunkest I've ever been. I don't even know if I attended the show.
Celebration time.
I don't even remember the show. It took me like a month to recover.
All right. Where's the worst location you think they've ever put it?
Oh, I've never had a bad show. So it would be very hard for me to say. I literally, every time I get those surveys, I have great shows every show. The place could have caught on fire and I would have loved it. I love seeing, I love seeing everybody. Vegas is the most expensive, and it's more of a
Vegas. Yeah, I've heard
it's a challenge to get your stuff in and out and, whatever. But I got the patience of Job. You could lose all my stuff and I would still be comfortable sitting in a chair and talking to you in the booth. So it wouldn't bother me. If you're a good salesman,
do you believe that is?
They would actually.
I believe that.
I believe that.
If they did, you should get a little sympathy buys right there. So,
well, Kevin, as usual, I thought that it would be a great conversation, and it has. Listen, if you guys have never, ever done business with King of Promotions, you got to call Kevin. Kevin, if they want to do business with King of Promotions or you or whatever the case is, everything that you guys can get your hold of, how would they get a hold of you guys?
You just call myself, 423-400-1029, email, call the Trib office, call Charles, any of those. I've known Charles forever, Dennis forever. So, and you can call any Trib member and hopefully they would give you a glowing report. If they didn't, they're lying because they've had a great experience. So, no, I'm not. So,
if you guys want to get a hold of Kevin Silvers or Robbie Tyson, give them a shout. You can go to the meeting of the minds and see them, or you can just reach out to Trib and April. They have his information. You've got his cell phone number. Reach out. Make sure that you guys just support some of our vendors in this business. We do appreciate that. And I would tell you guys, I appreciate you guys supporting the show. You know that you can see us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, where you're going to see this. Make sure you go to the show's website at www.thertoshowpodcast.com. Get some swag, go on there, listen to the show, find out some events. You also have the ability to subscribe and make sure that you hear us all the time. You can hit me up at pete@thertoshowpodcast.com. If you just want to talk, if you want to say something about Kevin, like, hey, man, we love that bow tie, and we want to know if you're going to have a class on how to tie those things, we can set that up for you. Kevin Silvers, King of Promotions, I am really, really glad that you were able to make it on today. So much I learned about you. That's why I love doing this show. So many things that I didn't know you were a part of that now I know. Now everybody knows
good or bad,
listen to the RTO show.
And hopefully we could do this again. We should do this again.
Well, just so you guys are aware, the RTO show will be live in RTO World that's coming down to West Palm Beach in Florida. And if you're around, maybe you have a chance to show up and talk a little bit to us.
Oh, I would love to. Anything. I'm open on this. Definitely. This is my format because I literally no buffer. That's good.
Well, what we're going to do, just so you're aware, and just so everybody is aware now, we're actually going to be doing a hot mic during the show. So we're actually going to have a live show, and we're going to do a hot mic. So Anthony's going to be with me. We're going to be going around and kind of introducing ourselves to everybody that already knows us. But we're going to say hi. We're going to say hi on camera, including yourself. We'll snag Robbie for a little bit and kind of talk to him and just get everybody involved. And, the show is so important to us. We want to make sure that you guys know everything about rent-to-own and everything that's going on. Kevin, thank you for being on the show today. And I'm going to tell you guys, as always, get your collections low to get your sales high. Have a great one.